Hey friends, it's Mary Giordano and welcome to Unapologetically Wild. Every single day, you have a choice. You can stay where you are, or you can step into the possibility of something even greater. And I'm here to spark that flame within you and inspire you to show up, embrace the fear, and do the fucking thing. Messy, scared, and real. Let's get started. Hey friends, it's Mary Giordano and welcome back to Unapologetically Wild. Back in May, I hosted my second women's group trip and we went to Bali, which was absolutely epic. And now, as you're listening to this episode, I'm just getting back from my third women's group trip, which took place in and around Banff National Park in Canada. While Bali and Banff are two very different places, both reminded me how much smoother travel feels when you're actually prepared. I've picked up a lot over the years, stuff no one told me before my first big trip abroad, but now it's totally second nature. So if you're someone who travels or is looking into traveling, I want you to have what I know before you're halfway across the globe Googling what you should have packed or standing in customs wishing you were more prepared. So in this episode, I'm breaking it all down. What I carry, what I print, what apps I download, and the non-negotiables I never leave home without. We'll talk travel insurance, emergency plans, staying healthy, staying connected, and yes, even the water, because this isn't about being a perfect traveler. It's about being a calm and present one. Travel should feel like freedom, not chaos, and a little prep goes a long way in helping you feel grounded, clear, and actually enjoy where you are. And the best part, I made you a free travel checklist with all the recommendations I'm going to mention here in today's episode. You can grab it by clicking the link in the show notes. So let's get started with the boring stuff, the kind of boring that becomes very not boring when something goes wrong. And this isn't just about your passport and boarding pass, but the backup copies, the emergency contacts, and random little details most people don't think about until they're standing in that customs line freaking out. Here's a quick note before we dive in. If you're going somewhere farther like Bali, this list is non-negotiable. Headed to Canada or Mexico, you may not need all of it, but I still recommend having digital backups, emergency contacts, and your ID somewhere easy to grab. You will never regret being over-prepared. I'd rather have it all and not need it than need it and not have it. So here's what I always bring. A printed copy of my passport and driver's license, a printed copy of my health insurance card, front and back, any visa confirmation like Bali's electronic visa, which I'll get back to that in a second, vaccine records. Some countries still ask, so if they're asking, bring it. Front and back copies of my credit cards, and a physical list of emergency contacts in case I lose my phone. Because let's be honest, no one memorizes phone numbers anymore like we're back in the 80s or early 90s. Did I just age myself? And raise your hand if you still remember your childhood home phone number. I do. I also screenshot all of my travel details, flights, hotel addresses, reservation numbers, and I create a folder in my Photos app and add the screenshots to that folder. Here's exactly how I store everything. I fold all printed copies into thirds and slide them into a clear zippered pouch. That pouch lives in my carry-on or in my backpack, right where I can grab it fast if my phone dies mid-travel day, which has definitely happened. I also create an extra zippered pouch with all my printed documents, and I give it to someone I trust at home. So if I lose mine, there's always someone else with copies. And I also keep digital copies in a few places. I know it sounds neurotic, but trust me, it works. So I save digital copies to my phone, backed up in the cloud, and I also share them with the same person I trust back home. So even if something gets lost or stolen, I'm totally covered. So if you're going somewhere like Bali that offers visa on arrival, here's the deal. You have two options. You can apply ahead of time through Indonesia's official electronic visa on arrival portal. So check the website of whatever country you're going to see if this is an option. Or you can get it at the airport when you land, which is what I did, and it was super easy. Either way, bring a backup payment method and don't count on airport Wi-Fi or kindness from the customs line to get you through. And here are a few things people forget to check, but should. Before any international trip, I always go to travel.state.gov to look up entry and exit requirements, passport validity rules. Some countries require 6+ months left on your passport to enter the country, visa info, vaccine requirements, and local laws. And one last thing, if you're heading somewhere across the globe, not just hopping across the border, register your trip with STEP, S-T-E-P, the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. It's free, it takes 2 minutes, and lets the U.S. Embassy contact you or your emergency contact if something major goes down, like a protest, natural disaster, or health outbreak. You can register at step.state.gov. And yes, the link's in the show notes. It might sound like overkill until something goes sideways. Then you'll be really glad you did this part. And if you're thinking, wait, what was all that again? Don't worry, I made that free checklist with everything I just mentioned. Grab it in the show notes, and all the links are there as well. So here's a quick recap of your must-have documents. Your passport and license, printed, saved, backed up, travel insurance info, printed and a digital copy, visa confirmation and vaccine card if needed, emergency contacts on paper, not just in your phone, research your destination at travel.state.gov, register with STEP before you go, and store documents in your carry-on, phone, cloud, and with someone you trust. All right, so your documents are handled. Now let's talk about your money, because nothing spikes your stress like landing in another country and realizing your card doesn't work, the ATM is down, or you're holding a $100 bill and no one has change. So again, if you're headed somewhere like Bali or somewhere far across the globe, this section is non-negotiable. But even if you're just crossing into Canada or Mexico, it's still worth checking your cards, carrying backup cash, and not assuming you can just tap your way through the whole trip. So here's what I do. I bring 2 cards, 1 credit and 1 debit card. I use my credit card, which has no foreign transaction fees, for most purchases. The debit card, it's just backup for ATM withdrawals or emergencies. I get local currency before I leave, enough to cover small expenses, tips, and cash-only places. For Bali, I exchanged the US dollar for rupiah ahead of time, but it wasn't easy. My bank, Wells Fargo, didn't offer it, so I had to go to Chase. So pro tip, sort this out early because some currencies aren't as easy to get last minute. I then split the cash between my carry-on and my zippered pouch. It's not cute, but it's secure, especially in airports, public transport, or crowded markets. And honestly, I'm not out there to look good. I'm out there to stay safe and have a good time. I don't usually travel with a checked bag, although Banff has changed that. More on that later. So nothing gets tucked into luggage. Everything stays with me. Some other things I do, I notify my bank that I'm traveling. Even if they say it's not required, it only takes a minute. It can save you from a surprise fraud block. I use the XE Currency app, which I'll talk about in a minute, to check exchange rates and download them for offline use. What I don't do, I don't rely on airport ATMs. I don't assume every vendor takes cards. I don't exchange my money in airports or when I get to my destination. It can actually cost you more. I don't rely on airport ATMs. Oftentimes, they're used so much they break. I also don't assume that every vendor takes credit cards, and I definitely don't keep all my money in one place. Once I land, I keep it simple. I keep some local cash and a copy of my ID in my day bag. The rest stays in my zippered pouch I keep secured around my body. And again, this whole setup is broken down in the checklist. Grab it from the show notes so you're not trying to remember every single step. So here's a quick recap for money musts. 2 cards, 1 credit, 1 debit. Exchange local currency before you go and start early. It can take up to 7 business days to get the cash. Notify your bank and download the XE Currency app. Don't rely on airport ATMs or one payment method, and keep things split and secure. Do not carry everything in one spot, because if you lose that one spot, you lose everything. Again, if you're heading somewhere like Bali, this setup is absolutely essential. If you're going to Canada or Mexico, it's still worth having local currency, a backup card, and downloaded exchange rates just in case. And again, this whole setup is broken down in the checklist. Grab it from the show notes so you're not trying to remember every single step. Up next, we're diving into tech, because if your phone apps or power setup don't work abroad, the rest of your trip starts to fall apart fast. It's unfortunate that we have to rely on technology so much, but we do, so here we go. Nothing kills the vibe faster than a dead phone, a busted charger, or finding out you've got no service when you land. And again, I'm going to keep repeating this because there is a difference depending on where you go. But if you're going somewhere far, unfamiliar, or off the grid, especially Bali type travel, this stuff matters before you board the plane. So how are you going to stay connected when you're across the globe? Airalo is my go-to for most international travel trips. It's an app that lets you install a digital SIM card called an eSIM so you can get local data without needing a physical SIM card or paying your provider's crazy roaming fees. For Bali, I grabbed the unlimited plan for Indonesia. It was $35 for 10 days. I got 3 gigs of high-speed data per day, then unlimited low speed. It was way cheaper than Verizon's $10 a day travel pass, which I originally did on my first women's group trip to Costa Rica. With Airalo, there's no stressing about overages or surprise bills. There's tons of different plans you can choose from. You just install the app before you trip. It activates the second you land. Their customer service is amazing, and their help section is super easy to navigate. And yep, I'll drop my referral code in the show notes. When you use it, you get $3 off whatever plan you choose. But here's the deal. Not every trip needs it. For places like Canada or Mexico, I just use my regular Verizon plan because those countries are already included. Verizon gives me 2 gigs per day of high-speed data in Canada before slowing it down. So Airalo isn't really that necessary for that kind of trip. Bottom line, know what your plan includes and choose a setup that makes the most sense for your destination and phone use. For power setups, we all know that international travel and dead devices equals chaos. So here's what I always bring. I always bring 2 power banks, 1 big kahuna and 1 medium size. The backup matters. I bring extra charging cables that I keep in my backpack and in my tech pouch. I also bring a universal travel adapter with USB-A and USB-C ports. And this is optional but helpful. I bring a compact power strip because I'm out there creating content. I have my laptop. I have other electronics that I like to keep charged. And other people can plug into it as well. And here's one of my weirdest but best hacks. I wrap little red tape around all my chargers and cords. It sounds silly until you're in a bus or a hotel room with 10 cords on the floor and no one knows whose is whose. Red tape saves friendships. Trust me. But if you're traveling with me, don't use red. It's already mine. All right, on to the apps I always have on my phone. Google Maps with offline areas saved. Google Translate. Make sure you download the local language ahead of time. XE Currency. Download currency for offline use. WhatsApp, I use it for messaging almost everywhere outside of the US, and Grab or Gojek if I'm in Southeast Asia. Even if you're just heading to Canada or Baja, these apps will still help. And here's a bonus tech tip. Drop an AirTag in all your bags. Your backpack, your carry-on, your tech pouch, your suitcase, everything. You never know when it's going to get lost or left behind. All right, so before we get into health and safety, I want to zoom out for a second and talk about how I actually travel. For years, I was a carry-on only girl. I did 2 weeks in Italy with all of my camera gear in tow, including all of my lenses, and didn't check a bag. I also went to Costa Rica and Bali with just 2 bags. No checked luggage, no baggage claim, and no rolling suitcases over uneven streets in 90-degree weather. My go-to combo is the Cotopaxi Alpa 42-liter as my carry-on and the Cotopaxi Inca 26-liter, which I'm not sure they make anymore. I use that as my personal item on the plane and as my day pack during the trip. But Banff changed all of that. The more women's group trips I do, the bigger they get, and the more goodie bags I pack for the ladies who are joining me. And the more trips I host, the better the goodie bags get. So for Banff, I had to pack 16 goodie bags, and there was no way they were fitting in just a carry-on, plus all of my own personal belongings. So for the first time in over 15 years, I checked a bag. I realized I was going to have to check a bag 2 days before I left. So I ran up to the Patagonia store in Boulder, Colorado, and I bought the Patagonia Black Hole 70-liter rolling duffel. It's awesome. It's durable, water resistant, and it has wheels. But when I got it home and put all the goodie bags in it, I still barely had room for my own stuff. So I decided to pack all the goodie bags in my Cotopaxi Alpa 42-liter, which I carried on the plane. and I put all my clothes and my personal belongings in my checked Patagonia bag. Moral of the story, the setup still worked, but sometimes your trip grows, which I'm not complaining about, and your luggage has to grow with it. And yes, I did take pride in being a carry-on only girl, but I'll check a bag if it means my trips are growing. All right, now that you know what I'm rolling with, let's talk about how I take care of myself when I travel. Because feeling good while you're out adventuring and exploring, well, that's kind of the whole point. So health and safety prep, while not glamorous, it's absolutely essential if you want peace of mind instead of panic mid-trip. And listen, I'm not out here to scare you with health and safety rules or tell you to pack your own IV bag, but as a former nurse, I've actually thought about it. Just kidding. Well, kind of. But here's the truth. When you're traveling internationally, especially somewhere tropical, remote, or far from a major city, a little prep makes a huge difference. You don't need to go overboard, but you do need to think ahead. So first things first, I always travel with both emergency medical insurance and evacuation coverage. For Bali, I used MedJet for evacuation because most travel insurance plans like World Nomads or Faye will only get you to the nearest hospital that meets basic standards. They won't necessarily bring you home if something major happens. And I don't know about you, but if I'm really sick or injured, I want to be back in the US, not stuck in a foreign hospital. Whether you use MedJet, your credit card's built-in benefits, or another provider, read the fine print. Know what's covered, what's excluded, and where they'll actually take you if things go sideways. I also always check in with either my PCP or a travel clinic before a big trip. But know that if you're headed somewhere like Southeast Asia, Africa, or Central South America, book that visit 6 to 8 weeks in advance. Some vaccines take time to kick in or require multiple doses. Travel clinics are super helpful. They can help you plan for required or recommended vaccines, food or waterborne illnesses, Hep A, typhoid, mosquito risks, and prescription meds to bring just in case. And they'll tell you what's actually relevant for your region. So you're not just guessing or overpacking random things. And here's a PSA. Just because your medications are legal in the US does not mean they're okay abroad. Some prescriptions, especially controlled substances, are actually banned in other countries, even with a script. So bring your medications in their original bottles and carry a copy of the prescription. Also check with your doctor and the embassy or consulate for your destination. Do not mess around with this. I promise you it's not worth the airport drama. Okay, onto the water. Because depending on where you're going, the tap water, it may not be safe to drink or even brush your teeth with. I always research this beforehand. If there's even a slight risk, I use bottled or filtered water for everything, brushing my teeth included. And because I've 100% accidentally rinsed my toothbrush under the tap, I pack a few biodegradable backup toothbrushes. If one gets contaminated, I just toss it and grab a fresh one. It's easy and it's totally worth it. And a quick memo, for those of you who travel with life straws, I'm one of them. Just know that life straws are fine for US backcountry hiking, but most of them only filter out bacteria and protozoa, not viruses. So if you're going somewhere like Bali where water quality is unpredictable, use a filter that does more. I pack the Grail purifier bottle. It filters viruses, bacteria, protozoa, chemicals, and heavy metals. If I need to refill from a questionable source or just want peace of mind, I trust Grail. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about being prepared so you can actually enjoy your trip grounded, safe, and clear. So a quick recap, get medical and evacuation insurance. If you're in a place where staying overnight in a hospital scares you, talk to your PCP or a travel clinic ahead of time. If needed, book 6 to 8 weeks in advance. Do not guess on the water. Know before you go. Pack backup toothbrushes and a real purifier like the Grail water bottle. Carry your medications in original bottles with prescriptions and download that checklist so you're not doing all of this from memory. All right, onto the personal care stuff. It's not glamorous, but it's essential if you're someone who doesn't love relying on hotel soap and praying the shampoo isn't some 2-in-1 mystery goo. So here's my take. If you're picky, bring your own. If not, most hotels do have the basics and you'll survive. After years of travel, I figured out what works for me. I do keep it minimal, but intentional. Clean ingredients, multi-use products, and the few small things that help me feel like me, even when I'm halfway across the world. This isn't about luxury, it's about basics that work. So here are a few personal care items I never skip. I bring my African net sponge everywhere. It scrubs better, it dries fast, it's small and compact in its own little bag, and it doesn't get gross. And I'm a washcloth girly, and many hotels don't have washcloths. So this is what I use to scrub my body and get the dirt off of me. I also bring a little mini lotion because I have dry skin. This is definitely a flight and post-flight skin saver. I always have multiple lip balms with and without SPF, always with clean ingredients, and always thrown in multiple places. And I always bring my Flex menstrual disc, because I'm not about to rely on what's available and what's not available in another country. And if you've never tried a disc, I just shifted from a cup and it is an absolute game changer. And here's a bonus tip. I also pack a few laundry detergent sheets, the kind that dissolve in water. They weigh nothing, they take up no space, and make it super easy to rinse out clothes at a sink or in a machine if I need a quick refresh. They're especially handy when you're re-wearing outfits or staying somewhere without laundry service. Again, these aren't luxury items. They're the essentials that keep me grounded and feeling like myself no matter where I land. All right, so carry-on essentials and clothing strategy. This is where the rubber meets the runway. What to pack, what to keep close, and what makes the biggest difference when your flight's delayed, your bag's MIA, or your body is 10 hours into a 14-hour journey. Again, I used to be a diehard carry-on only traveler. My Cotopaxi Alpha 42 liter was my ride or die, paired with that Inca 26 liter under the seat. But that streak has ended, and I'm okay with it. So while carry-on only is still my go-to when it's just me, checking a bag is probably my new reality for group trips, and that's fine. But the key is to pack your carry-on like your life depends on it. Because if your checked bag goes MIA, which isn't totally uncommon with connecting flights, you'll want your essentials right there with you. So here are a few flight comfort musts. A neck pillow you actually like. This can make or break your flight, especially if it's longer than you're used to. Compression socks for long flights, trust me on this one. Earplugs and an eye mask, because a sleep kit is a sanity kit. Electrolytes such as Element, which is my favorite, they go on my personal item every single time. And snacks I trust. Protein and fiber heavy with no added sugar. I also love bringing my Kindle to read on the plane. It's small, it's light, and it's convenient. And my Bose headphones to listen to music. Now for my clothing strategy. Being a carry-on only girly has taught me how to pack strategically. I don't pack a new outfit for every single day. I pack pieces that mix, match, and rewear well. Everything's lightweight, breathable, dries fast, and layered depending on the climate. Here's what I usually bring. And of course, this all depends on where you're going and how long you'll be gone. One swimsuit. To Bali, I brought one sarong. This is the trip MVP because it can be used as a towel, a scarf, a cover-up, a makeshift curtain, 3 to 5 lightweight tops, a couple of long sleeve sun shirts, 2 to 4 pairs of shorts, a pair of joggers or leggings for the plane. I actually love wearing my jumpsuits. They're practical, they're not constricting, and they're lightweight. I also bring something soft to sleep in, and of course, a warmer layer like a puffy or a fleece, as well as a rain jacket. I don't care where you're going, bring your rain jacket. If I'm going somewhere tropical or outdoorsy, which most trips of mine are, I'll pack some water shoes, a headlamp for sunrise views or late night bathroom runs, a dry bag, especially if boats or rain are involved, and a sunglass strap. You'll thank me when your shades don't fall in the ocean. With all of that being said, I want to add some essentials you'll want access to. Pack these in your personal item, not your checked bag. Your daily medications or supplements, a change of clothes, chargers and adapters, toothbrush and deodorant, and extra underwear if you wear it, and anything else you'd be devastated to be separated from for more than a day. Even if you're checking a bag, don't check the stuff that matters the most, because you never know when your luggage might take a detour to Africa when you're heading to Bali. And again, you don't have to memorize a thing. Just download the free checklist, follow the steps, and pack with confidence. All right, next up, this is the tech I bring as a content creator. How I keep everything charged, and what's in my content creation kit. Whether you're documenting for memories, your business, or the pure joy of creative expression, this part is for you. I've been a professional photographer for almost 15 years. I've sold prints on Etsy, done art shows across Colorado from Boulder to Vail to Frisco, and yep, in my early days, I used to pack every lens, my tripod, and camera body imaginable. I've definitely sacrificed comfort for quality, and I can't tell you how many times I've traveled with gear I thought I might need and ended up using none of it. I've stressed over my equipment more than the trip itself because, let's be honest, camera equipment is not cheap. But here's what I've learned. Unless you're doing commercial work or selling large prints, there's really no reason to be hauling a full-on production setup around the world. It's heavy, it's expensive, it makes you a target for theft, and most of the time, it's absolutely unnecessary. I always believed I had to have my full-frame camera with me, but some of my favorite shots, they were taken on my iPhone. Seriously, it's a beast. It shoots in ProRes. It edits on the go. The photos are printable. They're gorgeous. Most of the time, I can't tell the difference between my iPhone photos and my full-frame camera photos. And yes, when I was blowing things up for people's walls, I needed to use my actual camera. But now, I don't pack any of that stuff anymore. I carry my iPhone 15 Pro Max, which handles about 75 to 80% of my content, and my Insta360. I love that thing. I also carry several SD cards, 2 power banks, which are non-negotiable, and again, AirTags in everything, because peace of mind is better than panic. I do bring my drone on certain trips, but not all. For Bali, I use the DJI Mini 4 Pro for epic beach and jungle shots, but for Banff, the drone rules are pretty tight, so I'm leaving Diego the drone at home. Yes, I named my drone. So if you're thinking about bringing a drone anywhere, make sure you check local laws because some countries like Indonesia restrict drone usage around temples, cultural landmarks, or protected zones. Other places also require a permit, or they just might be banned entirely. So do the research before you fly. And lastly, this part is important. Yes, you can get your shot, you can tell your story, but also be there, be present. The most powerful moments of your trip will often be the ones you don't post. Do not experience your trip from behind a screen. Instead, live it with your own eyes. All right, next up, this is the final stretch, my 7-day countdown before every trip. Exactly how I prep so I'm calm, clear, and not packing at midnight the night before. I've done that once, maybe twice, and it sucks. All right, let's land this plane with the stuff I do 1 week before an international trip, because this is where the last minute chaos tries to creep in, and I'm no longer about that life. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but I don't want to be doing errands at midnight the night before I fly. I want to feel calm, clear, and maybe even a little excited. Imagine that. So first, I confirm the big stuff. I double check airport transfers and pickup details. I reconfirm hotel or Airbnb check-in instructions. I screenshot everything important, flight info, addresses, entry forms, reservation numbers. I download all my stuff, Spotify playlists, podcasts, ebooks or audiobooks, Google Translate with the local language downloaded, and offline Google Maps for the area I'm visiting. I check the baggage policies, especially for regional airlines. Don't assume your carry-on works for every flight. I always double check the size and weight limits so I'm not that person repacking at the gate, holding everybody else up. And I make sure to exchange my currency at least a week before I travel, just in case there's any delays. I do all of this so I can arrive present, not frazzled. Because the further you travel, the more you want your prep to bring you back to center and not stress you out. Again, everything I've covered in this episode, along with the gear recommendations, health prep, apps, and must-haves, is inside the checklist. All right, that's it, friends. This episode wasn't just about packing, it's about how you show up for your life. Because dreaming about adventure is one thing, but actually living it, that's where everything shifts. So if something's been stirring in you or you've been craving more than the same routine, which we can all agree gets old, this is your sign. I've got 3 unforgettable group trips planned for 2026. Alaska at the end of June, beginning of July, Machu Picchu in October, and Thailand the end of November, beginning of December. If you've been waiting for the quote unquote right time, you're already late. It's time to feel alive in your body and grounded in your life. That travel itch needs to be scratched. So grab your checklist, book the damn trip, and don't forget, being prepared isn't about perfection. It's about creating enough space so you can actually experience the trip you're taking. Not just survive it, not just post it, but actually fucking feel it. Thanks for tuning in today. If this episode hit home, subscribe and share it with a friend, because together we can bring more women into this wild, unapologetic space. Remember, waiting until you feel ready is the fastest way to nowhere. So show up, embrace the fear, and do the fucking thing. Until next time, stay wild.